remember a few years ago when like they had a virus and everything shut down and everything closed and
doesn't ring a bell.
Didn't happen in Florida.
Yeah, so I think they called it a pandemic.
It's still happening in Canada.
It happened for 5 years in Oregon. But
on this episode of ResiWeek, we talk the anatomy of a buyout, Snap's new co-HQ, and getting prepped for recession. All this and more on this episode of ResiWeek.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is ResiWeek, episode 380, Eyes Wide Open. Welcome to this episode of ResiWeek. This is your weekly roundup of all the latest news and stories for the residential AV industry. I'm your host, Matthew Scott for AVNation.tv, and this week I'm pleased to be joined by three of my good friends. First, we have Mr. Taft Stricklin. He's the dude over at Just Add Power. How you doing, Taft?
I'm excellent. How are you?
Fantastic. Then we have a newcomer, Brittany DiCesare. She's the... I said that wrong, didn't I?
Yes, you did, but that's okay.
Oh,
DiCesare.
DiCesare. I even wrote it phonetically and still screwed it up. My apologies. She is in charge of client. She is a client success manager over at Control Concepts. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Now that I've butchered your name and
That's
your
all right.
title,
I'm used to it.
Things.
No worries.
It's okay. I'm going to butcher the next guys too. This is Seth Johnson. He is our resident Florida man, also a software development manager over at BlackWire Design. How you doing, Seth?
Why am I getting called out as a Florida man? Taft is sitting right down the street from me right now, aren't you?
I'm in Oregon.
Oh, you got away.
I never have lived in Florida for longer than 7 days. At the most expensive, happiest place on earth. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Most expensive. I like that one.
Yeah,
that's the truth. I actually, we're totally off topic now. I looked at it for my kids and was like, talking to my wife because her mom lives in Florida, and so she half owns a house down there too. And I'm like, can we use that for the residency discount? And we looked it up. I'm like, nope. Dang it, so close. All right, let's get right into it. This comes to us from Residential Systems. We're just going to highlight this for a second. CEDIA has opened submissions for the Lifetime Achievement and Manufacturer Product Awards. Go check this out. You can nominate both an individual as well as product for, again, their kind of Hall of Fame and their Lifetime Achievement. That does close June 2nd, so go check that out. We are going to kick off with our first story of the day from CE Pro. The anatomy of a buyout. Garrett Integrated Systems acquires the Loop technology out in Washington. Or Garrett is in Washington, the Loop's in Idaho, as they plan to create a super integrator out in the Pacific Northwest. So read through the article. It's really good. Covers a bunch of really interesting aspects of both the acquisition, but also the prep for this. Taft, I want to start with you on this. This is not something we hear about often in our industry, especially with like almost a one-to-one, right? We've had the few VIA, I think was the last really big one that tried to create, again, like a super group that failed miserably or spectacularly, however you want to look at that. Should we be doing a better job as integration houses to try and build an actual exit plan?
I think it's a massive issue in our industry of people not having an exit plan. I'm also kind of interested, living in the Pacific Northwest, to see how this unfolds, because they say in the article that their plan is to continue to expand.
Yeah.
So, they're battleground Washington, Boise, Idaho, and really the two large places would be Seattle Metro and Portland Metro. And they haven't even touched on those areas yet as far as acquiring other people. But I thought it was great. And, cheers to the folks at Loop for building a great business, having it acquired, having an exit strategy, and focusing on their next step or their next plan. So, I'm interested to see who else they acquire or merge with in the market. So
Yeah, it'll be very interesting to watch. But I got to say, I love this. I don't want to say the smaller approach, but kind of like the more attainable approach of doing
yeah,
it slowly, opposed to
mhm,
what some of the bigger conglomerates have done, where they jump
yeah,
out of the box and try to pick up
yeah,
10 companies all at once, and
Mhm.
then again fail
yeah,
miserably.
exactly. And excuse me, tweeter. So that was an old tweeter joke. So I've been around long enough to.
I love
So
it.
my sneeze didn't come out right,
No, it's fine. It's fine.
but so I think these folks are pretty smart and have the right approach.
Yeah, but I think it's also about, you talk about them starting small, but you have to think about the culture that is coming into, and all of that is really going to affect how successful this can be. And if you're coming from completely drastically different cultures, your success rate for this acquisition is going to be likely pretty slim to none. And I think being able to come in and, one, not change things drastically from the beginning, but two, come in and start affecting small change and start bringing them into the family slowly, but then helping them buy into the culture that's already established in your existing business. And then, as you continue to look to expand, that's going to be pretty vital in this success, I think.
How much of this, Brittany, goes to essentially like proper planning, proper contingency systems in place? Because any company that is, I don't want to, I'm going to use the term easily acquired, but I don't mean that it's easy to acquire. I mean that they're able to be acquired, right? Small businesses typically are never acquired because honestly, they're a mess. How much of this is that, proper future planning, contingency planning, next person up planning?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's definitely a huge factor, and I think you should always be preparing for that. And I don't think people go into a small business or start a business wanting it to just end when you decide to leave. I think people enter into entrepreneurship or starting a business wanting it to survive them and have something to outlive them, whether that's being acquired or the business thrives on its own and you have new leadership that comes in. And I think you should always be planning for that. You should be prepared for that. But I think with that, it's making sure that you have that right foundation with your business from the start. We talk about small businesses being a mess. What can we do to make them not a mess? What systems, operating systems can we follow as small businesses to get the proper foundation and the proper things in place so that it, one, either survives you and you have leadership that can take over, or two, it looks like a good thing to acquire. And it's not being acquired simply so you can get out.
Yeah, that's a good point. Seth, kind of on that vein, are there any specific business practices, or what are the business practices that lead to a successful turnover or acquisition? Because again, like in the SMB world, it's something like, and I'm pulling the number off the top of my head, but it's something like 60% of them never transition beyond the original owner.
Oh, I could see that easily, right? Because
Yeah.
I talk about this a lot with people in respects to like management softwares and like project management softwares and that kind of, like, everybody's always asking, what do you use? What do you use? And it's like, well, there's all these tools out there, but they all kind of want you to run your company their way. And it all kind of flows back to everybody kind of using Excel and Microsoft Word at the end of the day to run the business. And the problem is like companies who are established and have done well. I think the biggest key to be ever joining up with someone is maybe a little bit of like, check the ego, I guess, at the door. Like, you're not wrong. You made a successful company. Everything you did was right. Like, maybe not everything, but you learned along the way and you've made changes to your company. But you're teaming up with a partner here, in this case, that may have also done very well. And to bridge those two things together, where you don't have one person fighting another and not being on the same team. I've seen that happen way too often, where two integration firms teamed up and one of them decided they were just not going to work anymore, and the other one put in all the extra work, and it wasn't a 50-50 relationship at that point. So I think for success, that you've got to go into that with both parties having eyes wide open and realizing that you're getting it, you're entering a partnership, a relationship with this person that you're partnering with, and that's going to be that's going to make or break the success of the new company. And it'll be interesting to see how this plays out over the next few years, to see where this company, it looks like one of the owners is actually stepping aside in this case to work on another project, which is good, because it leaves kind of one person in charge over the day-to-day operations. But I've seen it happen way too often, where two companies that are doing well but work completely differently try and mesh their companies together, and it fails spectacularly, because there's just, everybody wants to do the things that they've done the way they've done it before, which wasn't wrong. Again, like, it made a successful AV company out of it, but it got down to integrating here goes integrating a new workflow or new people or new dynamic into the situation, and they couldn't adjust what they were doing to bring those new partners in. And I've seen some pretty bad blood spilled over that kind of thing over the years. So
yeah, it's typically a culture shift thing.
Yeah.
Right. And
yeah,
obviously we've seen it in the AV world, but I know myself personally, we've seen it in the construction space a ton, where two good sized contractors kind of try to join up, and they never work.
Right.
It only seems to work when it's the massive company absorbing the smaller company, because they bring in all their hopes and dreams, and they just get crushed by the big corporate company who's like, no, it's great that you thought you were doing that. You're not doing that. You're going to do it this way. So, all right, let's change topics for a second. This comes to us from Residential Tech Today. Snap One has opened the new Salt Lake City co-headquarters. They just opened a 95,000 square foot new co-HQ at Innovation Point campus in Lehi, Utah. Read through the article. They've got some really cool pictures of the new co-HQ, as well as some interesting stuff as far as what this is going to help them do. So, Brittany, I want to start with you on this one. What does this mean for Snap? Is this outside of just another really big office that's their new HQ with some new research? Is this anything more than just expanding into a bigger space?
I mean, congrats to them. I think it's awesome that they're able to open up this new location. And I think for them, I would imagine it's them trying to showcase their strength as a company. I honestly question why similar locations. I think probably stretching it out across and being able to serve on a different side of the country probably would have been better. But I think for them, it just shows that, perhaps their strength coming out of the pandemic. And I congratulate them on that.
That's fantastic. Seth, does this help every time somebody opens a new location, especially one that has a training a training component to it? It's touted as a huge, win for dealers. Does this impact dealers at all, other than, again, there's a new location they can go do on-site training for?
No, I mean, it definitely, I mean, it could, I guess, if it attracts people who want to work there, to say I work in this. I mean, just looking at the picture of the building, it's beautiful. Like the inside and out pictures that they provided in the article, it's amazing looking. But if it attracts people who wants to work for Snap AV to come work there, then end up helping dealers. I guess it's kind of, that would be the way. Yeah. I would think the dealers would be indirectly affected by something like this.
That's a good point. Taft, is there anything to the co-HQ side, or is that just I don't want to call it like just some goofy marketing speak, but I don't understand the co-HQ side, other than like management's still going to be where management is, and this is going to be the research and training.
My first thought's probably not great. Are they stuck in a lease on the other building? Like what's the backstory? Is it a lease issue? Did they plan this building prior to the pandemic? Has it just recently been built? Are they going to keep both locations? And then my final question is, they have people that come to the office.
Yeah. So. It's like, who works in an office anymore?
Yeah, it's Utah.
And in the article, I think it states they have like 500 people that are working out of there.
Yeah.
So that really surprised me at that number. The number for the company overall doesn't surprise me, but for that building, I was kind of like, wow, that's pretty major. So I guess whatever works for them, if they can have engineering, sales, training facility, an anechoic chamber with a hard floor, all that in one building, and then management in the other building, then that may work best for them. Because sometimes having everybody all together really isn't that great.
And I think what I'm, and again, maybe this is just confusion on my part, so apologies to Snap if that's the case. I know they have another HQ in Charlotte and in another center in Serbia, but it's the Draper, Utah, and the new Lehi, Utah that is throwing us off here. But I don't know. It'll be very interesting to see what they do with it. Again, I think it's awesome.
Yeah.
And there's nothing better than having big buildings with your names on them, as long as you.
And it's a good looking building too. So
it looks great. Lots of glass. I love it. All right, let's hit our last story of the day. This comes to us from CE Pro and outgoing editor-in-chief Jason Knott. Is your company prepared for a recession? A study of 72% of small businesses say that they are well equipped for recession, leveraging financial assets and adopting efficiency tools, which makes me wonder if you weren't adopting efficiency tools before that. Again, small businesses are a mess. Read through the article. It covers some very, really good stats that aren't just focused on the AV space, but also just focused on SMB in general. Seth, what's the number one thing that can help, SMBs in our business, in our industry, get through the potential or the, whatever we're going to actually call this? We're finally, it seems, calling it a recession or a potential recession. What will help integrators get through this, and manufacturers?
I don't know, maybe get on the other side of an election year or something would be nice. Where it's not, seems to crop up right around that time.
Florida man, always there with us.
I don't know. I keep hearing the potential's there for the recession, but and everybody in the Fed is claiming that, despite raising interest rates, the economy is still strong and people are, still happy to go along to their job. I don't know. I don't know where this is going to come from. I know everybody's tense and worried about it, but it doesn't seem to actually display in the numbers we get every month. I mean, the last jobs report that came out here in the States was amazing, considering that everybody's being laid off in the tech sector. Like it's really weird. It's just a strange economy right now. And I guess with that uncertainty right there, it's just kind of like, I don't really have any good advice other than just keep doing what you're doing, because it seems like we're doing okay. But keep an eye on how things are going. If those new jobs are getting canceled or pushed out, that kind of thing. That's really the only bellwether that we can follow.
Taft, is it completely reliant on leadership to weather these, or how much of it is buy-in from staff and your team at your company?
I don't know. I would say within my world, it's really reliant on management ownership. To push the envelope and to make sure. And I'm having flashbacks to, like, remember a few years ago when, like, they had a virus and everything shut down and everything closed, and
doesn't ring a bell.
Yeah. So I think they called it a pandemic. Yeah.
It's still happening in Canada.
Yeah.
So
it happened for 5 years in Oregon. I happened for 5 years in Florida. But I've kind of flashed back to that, where everything stopped, right? And for myself, the only thing scarier than everything stopping is, like, it's stopping, and then you spend what you had in reserves, right, to watch that change. And then we kind of shifted where everybody was home and things picked up and people were spending money on homes. And right now, I wish the feds would just kind of slow down on the interest rate thing and give it some time, because they're not making like Kool-Aid where you, like, pour it in the water and stir it and it changes color. like this stuff takes time.
Mm-hmm.
So when you raise rates to slow things down, like you've got to give it time. And I feel like in the world of instantaneous, whether it's DoorDash or Uber or, look this up online or Amazon delivers it in the next 2 hours, that's not how our economy works. And I feel like that's what people are expecting. Oh, that didn't work last week. Let's raise it again. Oh, that didn't work this week. Let's raise it again. And, as things are slow, directly across the street from me, they tore down a house. They're building, 2 more multi-million-dollar houses jammed together right across from me. And it's just like seeing things continue to progress. I feel like the economy's been weird for probably the last, 25 years. And nobody can figure it out. So the word recession is just spewed, it's like, it just like we've been going into a recession for the last 10 years, I think. That's what everybody predicts. It's the bad word. It's the scary word. So, I think consumer confidence is probably down a little bit, but then people are still spending. There's those cycles. So there you go. I do not have an economy degree. So
Yeah, it sounded like it to me. All right, Brittany, wrap this up for us. What concerns me when, and again, this is a long-standing concern of mine, is when I read through articles like this and I look at stuff, and specifically things like 82% intend to obtain financing in the coming year versus 70% last year. And financing has gone through the roof to the interest rate conversation that we just had. Business operations are the number one thing that small businesses typically get wrong. They don't seem to understand how to run a business, especially in our industry, which is a little bit more hobbyish than, say, your traditional SMB. What do integrators have to do to shore up those business operations, or discover that they have them? One of the two.
Yeah. Well, I think, in relation to the interest rate hikes, like poor small businesses, especially if they're running on credit, you're talking about more of them financing. No surprise, they used all their reserves the last few years just trying to stay afloat. And now you're hiking the interest rates. And the article talks about, prices rising from small businesses because of this. Of course it is. The cost of business has gone up because it costs more to run the business. And so I think there are a few things that, we have to be aware of. I think also the fact that it highlighted more small businesses are focused on retaining talent. If you're a company that's not focused on retaining talent, what are you focusing on? It shouldn't just be, oh, let's prepare for a recession. We need to keep as many people as we can. That should be what you're doing all the time. We should always be investing in our teams. We brought them in the door for a reason. Let's equip them. Let's train them. Let's invest in them. And there's this, I think, mindset that if we train them up and we give them all the tools and resources they need, they'll leave. And I think that's such a negative mindset to be in. If we're training them, we're equipping them, they're going to stay invested in us. I think they're going to, more employees will be grateful for all that you've done for them. They'll be grateful for the times you gave in times of hardship and recession. And I think they're more likely to stay. And I think we need to continue to invest in the people we have. And that's going to help you in recruiting new teams too. And so as you're looking at, stuff like that, as you're looking at business operations, you should really be looking at, where is that stopgap? Like, is everything still funneling through the business owner? Because if it is, you're not going to grow. If everything relies on the one person, you're stuck. So you need to be mindful of what that leadership team looks like, what that scalability looks like for your team, and start preparing and equipping.
Yeah, that's a great point. All right. Thank you all for joining us. That's going to do it for us this week. Taft, if people want to connect with you, learn more about Just Add Power, where can they do that?
You can go to justaddpower.com, our website, which is newly redesigned, and it's pretty awesome. Love how it turned out. You can also find us on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. as well. And at Infocom, you'll find us next to the Christie Digital booth in booth number 1725. And I
like it.
I will be there. I may look a little different with the humidity in my hair, but I'll be there. So looking forward to the show.
Excellent. Thank you for being here, sir. Brittany, if people want to connect with you, learn more about Control Concepts, where can they do that?
So you can go to controlconcepts.net and learn more about us. And I can be reached on Twitter and LinkedIn at Britt Dice. And I will also see you all at Infocom. We don't have a booth, but we will be everywhere with our teams. So just come and find us. And we'll be celebrating something pretty exciting and big. So you'll want to make sure you stop by and find me or find one of our team.
Will you have the blue shirts on again?
Well, they vary in color.
Okay. Never mind. All right, Seth, thank you for being here, my friend. If people want to connect with you, learn more about BlackWire Design, where can they do that?
Yeah, you can check out BlackWireDesigns.com, and we will be at Infocom as well this year. Booth. Now we didn't get a jump on this. We didn't start early. We decided not too long ago to do it. So we're not next to the Fancy Christie booth. We're next to the last row. So find us at booth 4688 there in Orlando. So we're looking forward to being there, though.
Excellent. Thank you again for joining us. If you'd like to connect with me, you can find me on Twitter at Matt D. Scott and most other social platforms. But more importantly, please visit AVNation.tv, where you'll find this show as well as a wide variety of other shows with all the verticals that we cover. When you visit the website, please take a moment to check out our supporters. We are extremely thankful for their support and ask that you check them out as well. Thanks again for watching. That's all the time we have for this episode of ResiWeek.